The Cursed Locket. Maya had always been close to her grandmother, who was known in the family for her love of old, beautiful jewelry. When her grandmother passed away, Maya inherited a small box of her treasures. Among the rings, bracelets, and brooches was an antique locket, worn with age but still strikingly beautiful. The locket was heart-shaped with delicate engravings on its gold surface and felt oddly heavy in her hand. She could feel an inexplicable pull to it, as if it held something deeply personal. Maya opened the locket, finding an old, faded photograph inside, of a young man and woman, her grandmother and a man she didn't recognize. The sight filled her with a strange sadness, almost as if she was intruding on a forgotten part of her grandmother's life. But something about the locket compelled her to wear it, so she clasped it around her neck, thinking it might bring her closer to her grandmother's memory. That night, as she lay in bed, Maya had a vivid dream. She was in a beautiful garden, walking under a full moon. The air was filled with the soft fragrance of jasmine, and she could hear faint laughter echoing around her. She saw a man standing in the distance, his face obscured in shadow, watching her. She called out to him, but he didn't respond. Instead, he turned and vanished into the mist. When Maya woke up, she felt disoriented, as if part of her had remained in that dream. Throughout the day, she couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. Every now and then, she'd catch a glimpse of movement in her peripheral vision, a shadow here, a flicker there. She tried to ignore it, but the unease only grew stronger. The following night, she dreamed of the same garden. This time, the man was closer, his face still hidden, but his gaze intense. As she approached him, she felt her heart pounding with fear and an unexplainable sense of longing. The man reached out, and she felt a chill spread through her body. When she awoke, Maya noticed something alarming. Her grandmother's locket felt heavier than before. She opened it again and gasped. The once faded photograph had changed. Now, the man's face was clearly visible, though it looked haunted, his eyes hollow and sorrowful. She could feel his gaze piercing her, filling her with a sense of despair. Disturbed, Maya searched through her grandmother's old letters, hoping to find some explanation. She finally found one, a faded letter describing a tragic love affair. Her grandmother had been deeply in love with a man named Dev, but he had disappeared mysteriously one night, never to be seen again. Heartbroken, her grandmother had kept his photograph in the locket, hoping he would somehow return. The more Maya read, the more she realized that her grandmother had believed the locket was cursed. It holds him, binds him, one line read, in shaky handwriting. He is trapped, waiting. But he is not the same anymore. That night, Maya decided to remove the locket, fearing the strange presence around her. But when she tried to unclasp it, the locket wouldn't budge. She tugged at the chain, even tried to cut it, but it remained fixed around her neck, cold and heavy. Unable to escape, Maya went to bed, hoping sleep would bring her peace. But that night, the dream was darker. She found herself once again in the moonlit garden, but the flowers were wilted, and a dense fog cloaked the air. The man, Dev, was waiting for her, his face now twisted in anger and sorrow. "Why did you bring me back?" he whispered, his voice chilling and echoing around her. Maya tried to explain, her voice trembling. I didn't mean to. I didn't know." But Dev only shook his head. "I am trapped here, bound to this world. You have taken her place." As he reached out, a wave of ice-cold fear washed over Maya. She screamed, struggling to wake up, but the dream wouldn't let her go. Dev's fingers brushed her cheek, and she felt a jolt of cold seep into her skin, a binding connection tightening between them. When she finally woke, she found herself clutching the locket, her body drenched in a cold sweat. But the real horror lay in the mirror across her room. Her reflection showed the locket hanging from her neck, and beside her, barely visible, was the shadowy figure of a man with hollow eyes, staring back at her through the mirror. Desperate, Maya sought out the help of a spiritual guide. The woman explained that Dev's soul was bound to the locket, trapped between worlds by his unresolved love and sorrow. Removing the curse required an act of true closure. She would have to release him. That night, standing alone in her grandmother's garden, Maya held the locket and spoke to Dev, promising him peace, releasing him from the binding hold of her grandmother's longing. She felt a sudden warmth, and the locket grew lighter. When she opened it, the photograph had faded completely, leaving only an empty locket. Maya still keeps the locket, but now it is a symbol of closure, a memento of her grandmother's past and the love that transcended death. But sometimes, on quiet nights, she feels a comforting presence, like a final whisper of gratitude, before the locket returns to silence. Would you keep the cursed locket, knowing the story behind it?